What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hill Shadows podcast. As always, I'm Jeremiah, and with me is Ashley.
Hello.
Hopefully, everyone's doing okay. If you guys like the strange, the supernatural, the paranormal, please hit that subscribe button. Each week, we go over encounters people have of this type of thing. So, of this nature. If you want to send in your encounter, we will share that on an upcoming episode. You can send that to hillshadowsky@yahoo.com. And that's KY because we're located in Kentucky. If you guys are in the States, you will be familiar with that. If not, there's some pretty weird stuff that goes on here. So, kind of what got us into this subject in the first place.
Paranormal realm.
I personally, I've never seen ghosts or anything. Ashley has. I have seen UFOs. Like, the thing is, she's seen the same UFOs I've seen, but
Yeah.
we did see Black Triangle, and as of yet, I've been unable to document that. But I do plan on investing in a DSLR camera very soon.
I mean, we also haven't been outside, like hanging out at night as much.
It's been
really cold.
It's been really cold, so. But yeah, guys, if you didn't get to check out last week's episode, it was pretty cool. I think it got skipped over just because it's not a very popular topic, but
it was a good topic.
I love the
topic. You titled it wrong.
Well, yes. It was about time lapses, and I guess some people would call it like glitches in time. But yeah, it included some people who claim to have seen some dinosaurs, and yeah, just relating to time. But tonight I've got some. I guess we're back to the Sasquatch topic because it seems to be the kind of stories I came up with. I was trying to think of some other stuff that we've seen throughout this past week, because I know we watched some pretty crazy documentaries and stuff. I know we heard a pretty crazy Bigfoot encounter earlier today.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Very interesting.
It's probably one of the better ones I've heard in a while. Like, it literally, like, I don't know, I could almost feel, like, the fear.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with, I want to say, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure on his last name. His first name is Kerry.
Oh, was it Kerry?
Kerry, like Kerry.
Oh.
And I want to say his last name is Arnold, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
It was a good story.
I will leave a link in the description so you guys can go check out that interview. It wasn't really an interview, it was kind of him telling his story. I guess there's a documentary on it.
I don't think it's a documentary. It's like
a podcast.
Well,
yeah, but he did make a documentary about his encounter.
Oh.
I want to say the channel is Bigfoot Odyssey, I think. I may be wrong about that.
It was a good one.
Could be wrong. But what else have we seen over this past week? It seems like there's so much that I want to talk about, and then I get right here and I can't.
That's why you're supposed to make notes.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'm not so good about doing that. It's been I have no excuse this week. It's not like it's been a super busy week. We even had a couple snow days with the kids, so maybe it's the opposite of a busy week, possibly.
Yeah.
That can get in the way too.
Agree.
So how many do you have to share tonight?
I just have 2.
She has 2. I think I have like 2 or 3. I can probably come up with 3 out of the whole thing, maybe. There's some pretty interesting. I was actually researching Alaska, and that's where I came up with my stories.
Okay.
And it just so happens, I guess a lot of people see Sasquatch in Alaska, and we did watch something earlier about the ice gnomes, was it?
Yeah, I've seen that several times.
Yeah, it was Gerhardt or whatever.
Yeah. Can't.
Alaska Triangle, I believe, is the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty interesting. I don't know how much production goes into it. I'm sure quite a bit. So, how much information can you find if you just go out for a few hours anyway, right? But yeah, I wanted to say something.
TV
Oh, well, I mean, if you want to fix that, that's okay.
Sorry,
I mean,
it's
we've already been
bothering
rolling
me.
for like 5 minutes at this point, so I don't want to, Um, ba, 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 ba. What I was going to talk about was it's based on a book. The book is titled The Creature. This is something I watched earlier today. I wish I could remember. Let me see if I can find the name of the person who wrote this. It was very interesting.
What is it?
The thing, the the book that was written titled "The Creature," right?
Oh.
About the guy who, I guess he had built a log cabin out somewhere, or a cabin. I don't know if it's a log cabin. I just want to say log cabin, but he built a cabin, and this creature starts coming around. And he said he just tried to get it to come around again, and he noticed the first time it came around, like he hadn't had a bath or anything. He was kind of,
Oh.
I guess he was smelling pretty ripe or whatever. And,
I didn't know that's what that was called.
So he attempted to replicate that encounter by, I guess, smelling bad again somehow.
Uh-huh.
But the creature kept coming back around. I can't
Calling?
find. Hold on, here we go. Yeah, this is it. It's on Amazon. The Creature:
That's
Personal Experiences with Bigfoot. And let me find the author here so I can tell you guys who that is. Jan Clement. So was this a? I don't know if it was a man or a woman.
I assumed it was a man.
I really assumed
Yeah,
it
he
was
said
a
something
man.
about his wife.
Yeah, for sure.
He was there
Yeah.
because his wife.
Right.
And
Yeah, they were having trouble
Yeah.
or something, right?
if it
The
is in fact
description
a true story.
Is The Creature: Personal Experiences with Bigfoot has taken a place among the classics in Bigfoot literature. First published in 1975, the text has been critically reviewed and enthusiastically discussed ever since its release. Whether or not one believes that Bigfoot creatures exist, the book will be enjoyed for its gripping story. And I must say, what I heard of it,
It's good.
I didn't hear a whole lot, but at the beginning, it was very interesting.
I thought we
And,
listened to all of it.
No, it was actually a YouTube video that we
Oh.
watched, and the video was about 2.5 hours long. I'm
Oh.
assuming it was just somebody reading
Oh.
the book,
Okay.
but it was very interesting. We probably listened to an hour, maybe,
Something like that.
maybe half.
I liked it.
It seemed like we might have listened to all of it, and they were like going over some extra stuff at the end. So there could be more to it. I don't want to say I've read it all without that, but it is on YouTube. It absolutely is. I will actually post a link to that as well in the description if you guys want to check it out. It's a pretty fascinating tale. This guy had some pretty interesting encounters on a regular basis, so he was able to document quite a bit about this thing. And I mean, to hear him tell it, these things are out there, man, and if they don't want to be seen, they're not gonna be seen. However, they will be smelled because apparently they smell terrible. It's one thing that I keep hearing over and over is like the Creature, that book, and the other encounter we heard earlier today. Both of those descriptions were like they were really foul creatures, you know. Are you here?
Yes.
Are you?
Mhm.
Well, did you get that impression? You haven't been paying attention to me.
I've listened to everything you said.
Well, what do you got to say about that?
Well, evidently they stink. I don't know.
Right.
He
I
said
mean, do you
something
recall
about,
that? It said the thing had he said he thought it had like a shirt on, right?
I don't recall that part.
But he said it turned out being like mud.
Oh, that's a different story.
Well, I was talking about two different ones.
I know.
I
I
guess.
thought you were still referring to the one with the creature.
No, I'm kind of flip
Jumping
flopping
back and forth.
between
I can tell.
those two,
It
but
kind of throws me off a bit. He was talking on the one with the creature. He was saying that there would be times that it would smell like the thing had been eating wild onions or something, and that he could always tell when he
Right,
did because,
yeah.
well, for one, he stunk like wild onions, and then like his eyes would turn like red, and he didn't know if like, yeah, why that would happen, if he had some type of conjunctivitis, like, he wasn't sure, but he said he couldn't couldn't hardly stand to be around this thing whenever it had been eating the wild onions.
Yeah, like he said he like yeah that was extremely hard when
Mm-hmm.
during those periods. That was fascinating how prolonged of a period that this guy interacted with this thing, and he even talked about the different animals that it killed, right?
Yeah.
Like the deer that so the only time I think he had seen a deer
Mm-hmm.
on this property with this creature, and said it just took off like crazy fast, and what was it? He basically grabbed it and slammed it into
Slammed
the
it.
ground
Uh-huh.
and pretty much killed it instantly. And after he did that, he disappeared for like 5 days, right?
Yeah.
They would
It sounds to me like he probably had a family
they
somewhere.
would
It's
took it
like,
to his
you
family,
know, he's coming
right?
home like, honey, I'm home. I brought food.
Yeah, and also this guy would he mentioned like trying to get a picture of it, or I mean, he said this thing would disappear for 2 days if he would like flash a metal
Metal
blade
comb.
or something out of his
So he
pocket.
had a metal comb.
And yeah, I mean, it
Couldn't
was
pull
so
anything out.
frequent that he even took a friend out there, right? And
Yeah.
he would pull up in his car. I think he named this Sasquatch Kong, Kong, and he would pull up and he would feed it. So he would pull up in his car and he would yell Kong food, and if this thing was around, apparently it would show up. So when he took his friend out there, they got out of the car and he yelled Kong food, and this dude's looking at him like he's crazy. Like, what the hell does Kong food mean? But yeah, he actually gets dude to roll around in some cow manure, right? To try to lure this thing. I don't know if that ever
Did I
worked or
say-
not, but
I think I said
did you
that
say
wrong.
cow maneuver?
Yes.
Great. All right. But yeah, that being said, let's get into sharing some stories that other people have had, and specific in Juneau, Alaska is what I have. You want me to go ahead and get into mine, or do you have yours ready?
Go for it.
This one is off Reddit, and it comes from a user by the name of CMHammer1996, and this was 127 days ago, and this was titled Sasquatch Bigfoot Sighting Near Juneau, Alaska, Summer 2010. Thought I'd post an encounter a buddy and I had near the Eagle Creek. I'm sorry, there's no creek. Near the Eagle River outside Juneau, Alaska. It was summer 2010, and my friend and I were at a summer Boy Scout camp. We were 14 at the time. It was the last day of camp, and the staff had us play an after dinner find the camp counselors game. We basically had to let the counselors run out into the woods and then go find them. This is summer in Alaska, so there was still plenty of light out, although it was getting later in the day. My buddy and I stuck together because we thought we'd have better chances finding the older counselors that way. Partway through the game, we saw a counselor behind a tree, so we started chasing. They ran to the nearest dirt road, so we chased them. Following them around a bend in the road, we lost them, so we started heading back down the road the way we came. On our right side were the woods we had came from when chasing the counselor, and on the left was a field probably 300 to 400 yards across, with the ocean on the other side of the field. I happened to notice a person walking up from the beach on the other side of the field, and I found that pretty curious. It was a warmer day for Alaska, so I was surprised to see that they were wearing what seemed to be a lot of dark clothing. It should be noted that the field tapered to a narrower width in the direction we were moving, which was the direction the person I spotted across the field was heading as well. This meant they were gradually getting closer to us as we moved down the road. As I kept watching them, something just didn't seem right. They were still quite a ways off, well over 200 yards, but I could tell they just looked different. It wasn't until they started getting closer that I realized what seemed so different. They were super tall. My buddy noticed them at this time, and we started watching more intently. This was about a minute or two after initially spotting them, although timelines are a little fuzzy. The figure changed courses a little bit around this time and started heading into the field. Directionally, it looked like they were headed for the forest and mountains at the far end of the field. About a minute or so more, they were close enough for us to see this was definitely not a person. A quick note, from 13 to 14 years old, I had a huge growth spurt and hit 6 foot, and I had grown into a size 13 shoe. Now the grass in this field was waist level on me, and with the figure walking in the field now, we could clearly see the break in their legs. Crotch area was well above the top of the grass. We could also start seeing that the person wasn't just tall, but hulkingly huge and hairy. I didn't know much about Sasquatch at the time, other than the name, but I noticed a lot of the now more commonly talked about physical features. Slightly conical head, broad shoulders, and traps that seemed to converge on the head with the absence of a neck. The arms were extremely long, hands almost reaching knee level. It didn't look overly furry, but it had extra shagginess around the head and shoulders and upper back, almost like how we have hair, and it did appear to have some kind of mane. I don't know if it caught our smell or not. We were about 100 yards or less away at this point. But it suddenly took off running and disappeared within 10 seconds or so into the woods at the end of the field. It moved lightning quick, and that's what really caught us off guard. There's no way in hell either of us could have attempted to catch the creature at the speed it was moving. With it gone, my friend and I immediately went back to our shelter to retrieve my cell phone. We returned to the field and actually were able to locate some prints. It wasn't too hard to find the field. We took a few photos of the prints out of curiosity, and if I can find my phone from that time, it should still have those photos on it. What I can say is the prints dwarfed my size 13 shoes. After considering my height, the height of the grass, and how the grass measured up to the creature, we figured it had to be at least 8.5 feet tall. I personally haven't talked much about the experience, but from time to time my buddy, who I'm still close with, does talk about it. I felt a lot better having him there because I wouldn't be sure how I'd feel with an experience like that with no one to confirm seeing everything the same as me. Some things I didn't experience or notice in this sighting. There was any nasty or skunky smell, vocalizations, eye shine, or fear or feeling of doom, or running on all fours. I know these are characteristics that are sometimes reported during Sasquatch sightings, and I'm assuming certain factors of my personal experience can explain why some of those weren't observed. Regardless, that's my sighting, and thanks for reading.
Hmm.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It's probably far enough away not to notice.
Right,
those
yeah, I
things.
mean, plus, are you going to, depending on which way the wind's blowing, are
Uh-huh.
you going to smell anything from 200 yards? I mean,
Right. Also, did they say what time of day it was? Was it day, night?
they did mention that it was light outside.
Okay.
So,
That's probably another reason that they didn't see, like, glowing of the eyes of any kind. Because isn't that usually like a night thing?
yeah, I
Maybe?
think so. I would imagine, yeah. But I got one more. I don't really know what it's about,
Well,
but
I'll
it's
go
coming
hold.
from Alaska. I'll let you go ahead and
Okay. Yeah, I've got this pulled up.
get into one of yours first. So.
Okay. I can't remember if this is I don't know. I don't think I've read this before. It's on Micah Mountain in British Columbia
I don't
in
recall.
October of 1955. William Rowe?
I don't think I've heard about that. So.
I think the Rowe that I'm thinking about was a story about a UFO encounter. Anyways, this is what I found. So William Rowe observed a large animal as he entered a clearing on Micah Mountain on a sunny afternoon in October 1955. I saw what I thought was a grizzly bear in the bush on the other side. I'd shot a grizzly near that spot the year before. This one was only about 75 yards away, but I didn't want to shoot it, for I had no way of getting it out. So I sat down on a small rock and watched, my rifle in my hands. A moment later, it raised up and stepped out into the opening. Then I saw it was not a bear. My first impression was of a huge man, almost 3 feet wide. But as it came closer, I saw by its breast that it was a female. And yet its torso was not curved like a female's. Its broad frame was straight from shoulder to hip. Its arms were much thicker than a man's arms and longer, reaching almost to its knees. Its feet were broader proportionately than a man's. The nose was broad and flat. The lips and chin protruded farther than its nose, but the hair that covered it made it resemble an animal as much as a human, and its neck was also unhuman, thicker and shorter than any man's I'd ever seen. As I watched this creature, I wondered if some movie company was making a film at this place, and that what I saw was an actor, made up to look partly human and partly animal. But as I observed it more, I decided that it would be impossible to fake such a specimen. The thought came to me that if I shot it, I would possibly have a specimen of great interest to scientists of the world over. I leveled my rifle, but after the creature turned to look in my direction, I lowered it. Although I have called the creature it, I felt now that it was a human being, and I knew I would never forgive myself if I killed it. Roe watched the animal leave the clearing, walk into a stand of lodgepole pine, and reappear briefly as it walked down a ridge. I wanted to find out if it lived on vegetation entirely or ate meat as well, so I went down and looked for signs. I found it in 5 different places, and although I examined it thoroughly, could find no hair or shells of bugs or insects. So I believe it was strictly a vegetarian. I found one place where it had slept for a couple of nights under a tree. William Rowe subsequently related these details in a sworn legal statement which he made 2 years after his encounter. He concluded by stating, "Whether this was a Sasquatch, I do not know. It will always remain a mystery to me unless another one is found. I hereby declare the above statement to be in every part true to the best of my powers of observation and recollection." That was his story. That's what happened.
That's pretty interesting. It's kind of he seems kind of brave to even raise the gun. I know a lot of people
Yeah.
report being kind of terrified to
Mhm.
even aim a gun at them because they seem so pissed off about people having a gun in the first place.
Right.
And then obviously the amount of ammunition seems to be a common thing that they think of is like I don't have enough bullets type
Right.
deal, you know.
Yeah.
Plus the creatures seem like they get pretty pissed off when people aim guns at them.
I mean,
don't know.
if it's not coming at you in an aggressive manner,
why
would you even? Yeah. They
Yeah.
deserve
I think
to.
for me personally,
just
the
as
only
much.
reason that I would consider it would be out of fear. Like I would want to have the gun in case it came
If
at
it's
me,
coming
but I
at
don't think
you,
it. I
possibly, but-
honestly don't think it's gonna do you much good if it. I mean, especially if it's one the size that a lot of people report. You know.
Right. I mean, don't run. Because then, it could be like predator type thing. It's going to chase after you, try to get you.
Right. Yeah. You never.
Don't
never
show any
wanna
signs
run
of
from a
aggression.
predator.
Treat it like a bear,
And I guess some encounters. I think for the one we heard earlier today from the Kerry guy,
Uh-huh.
it happened on some property he had been on for some time,
For
right?
years.
And he even noted that one area he always felt like something was
Yeah,
a little
it's creepy.
creepier off. So my theory was maybe he pissed this thing off, right? He said like the vibe he got was basically that this thing was like telling him off for
Yeah.
basically is like what he said the emotion was like.
Yeah. I think that's interesting, the amount of like the noises that the thing would make. And he understood.
He made
Like,
some
he
very
knew
interesting noises.
the detail that man gave in his
Yeah,
story. There is
a lot.
absolutely no
A
way
lot.
that's made up.
And plus, like I
wow.
said, he said it looked like he had a shirt on. Well, when he first seen it, he thought it was like the person
man,
who owned
yeah.
the property, which,
Mhm.
he thought maybe they had like a ghillie suit on or something. He
Yeah.
said it looked like it had a shirt on, but when it got closer up, it was mud. Like it had been asleep down in a creek bed or something, is what he said. And that makes you wonder, you don't know where these things sleep at.
Mm-mm.
And who knows how many times people walk right by them while
Right.
they're laying there asleep.
So, do you remember in that other little thing, the creature thing we're listening to, where he was talking about, when he would be with that Kong,
Right.
they would sit squatted staring at each other.
Mhm.
And there were many times where animals would walk basically right next to him because he blended in so well with
Right,
his
and
surroundings.
the one animal that he said surprised him that I guess the thing didn't kill it was a rabbit, and he
Yeah.
said the rabbit came up to it. This creature like patted on it
he
and
picked
picked
it
it up and then put it back down
Yeah.
and let it go about its way.
Also, when he killed that possum,
he
he said
killed
that he
the
stroked
possum and
the
stroked the
possum.
fur, right?
Yeah.
Like it was a
not knowing if it was like
paying
felt good, soft, or if it was like
like a paying respect
Yeah.
type thing, right?
Yeah, there's another story about a guy that had been watching them in his backyard for some time, and his cat was out in the yard, and he saw like and the arm of one appear like from like the woods, and pick his cat up. You remember this? And must have held it for some time and put it back down and let it go about its little way. Do you remember this?
Yeah. I think we're good rolling. Yeah, my screen just froze, so I wasn't sure. I was kind of checking on it because it looked
Oh.
like it was maybe we weren't picking up, but we're good. But yeah, definitely some.
Excuse
If
me.
you guys get a chance to read the book we're talking about or listen to it on YouTube, even
It's worth it.
this guy got some really interesting information. If he wasn't just making it all up, right?
Right.
I mean, there's no proof
If
of
he
it
made it
happening,
up, that's pretty good too.
but everything is so it's very descriptive. I mean, if he
Yeah,
did,
I like stories like that with a lot of detail.
but you can tell the guy's a good writer.
If it's just a writing
But
or not, he still writes good.
who knows? I don't know whatever ended up happening with it. I don't know if he continued to do research, but I know he had
Right.
mentioned that he was a scientist, so the opportunity for him to study this creature was definitely like a big deal to him.
Mm-hmm.
But on that note, I got one more
Okay, I'm gonna try
coming
to
out
find
of
my other one.
Alaska. I don't know. I don't know how true this is. This is also something I found under the Reddit post of High Strangeness, and it's from a user by the name of CyberNoob76. It says, read this journal entry of a strange encounter in 2007 Alaska right out of Passport to Magonia. I don't know what that means, but let's get into it here. For those who don't want to break a brain cell reading the cursive, I don't know what original text it was in, but we had a most remarkable visit here. What we planned as a quiet retreat to this wild spot turned into a memorable view of our technological future. Just as we were getting coffee, water, going and putting on dry clothes, we heard some rustling sounds out by the woodshed. I looked out the window and saw a thin, older man picking small pieces of firewood out of the stack. I went out to see what he was up to, and that's when I noticed the breathtakingly modern-looking craft tied to the dock. It looked to be a cross between an ultralight airplane and a hot air balloon.
Hmm.
While I stared at this thing, all shiny-sided and tight with light wires connecting to the sections, the man approached me. He was very soft-spoken and polite. He apologized for intruding on our privacy, but asked if we would mind his taking a bit of fuel. For his trip, of course, I had no idea what he was talking about, so I invited him in for coffee. Well, yeah, why not? You know? While having a cup of coffee and later cheese blitzes and scones with thimbleberry marmalade, he told me his story. He worked for the Air Force and later in the Pentagon as a procurement development specialist. While doing so, he became enamored of the potential for the use of ultralight materials for air and watercraft. He became so enthusiastic about these new technologies that eventually he ran afoul of the representatives of the huge military providers, Boeing and Lockheed, as well as others. Apparently, this fellow had become an advocate for development techniques that would revolutionize aircraft design, making planes cheaper and more um, readily constructed, even by home builders and third world consumers. Each innovation would bankrupt the large military contractors who would love their monopolies. After a series of near accidents, and after he found himself shunned and ignored by the Pentagon and his peers, he realized that the developments he so favored would not soon see the light of day. When he perceived that he was being followed night and day, he knew it was time to move on. So that's how he came to Alaska. So that's how he came to Alaska Lake, or I don't know what lake this is, but is there an Alaska Lake? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
For the last 7.5 years, he's wandered the northern hemisphere, traveling in a remarkable craft. He said he propels it forward by aligning the wings, much like you'd sail a sailboat. actually moving forward against a headwind. And to keep aloft, he brings a very small amount of fuel. Thus, he stopped here for some wood. He only took about 10 kilos of split wood, about as much as he could carry. By carefully holding in the heated air from the combustion of the wood in what looked like some large nylon balloons, he was able to maximize the lift he produced. He said that the small amount of fuel would probably be enough to get him to Wyndham Bay, or the mainland halfway between Juneau and Petersburg. His next planned stopping point. Yeah, that was his next planned stopping point. This is really oddly phrased on it. It's just like, I guess it's copy and pasted from somewhere maybe. He was so enthusiastic about his craft and his concepts. I asked him why he didn't patent them and sell them for millions. He said that virtually all the developments he'd come up with were achieved while he was working for the government, so they really weren't his to patent. The one time he'd stayed near a town long enough to set up correspondence with the U.S. Patent Office to get a patent on one of his recent developments, he narrowly escaped being arrested by a half dozen men who arrived at his campsite hotel at night in armored vehicles. If he hadn't stepped away from his campfire to take a leak, they'd have had him for sure. As it turned out, he was outside the arc of light cast by his campfire when the black-clad men crept into sight. Since then, he'd been on the move. As to making money on his ideas, he said that's not important to him. He's eager for his designs to spread throughout the world. As he let me make some sketches of his craft, I will put them neatly below. After a pleasant morning with this man, who politely refused to give us his name, he lifted off as quietly as he'd arrived and was gone. We won't see him again soon. I guess there's maybe a image of what this craft looks like. I'm trying to see if it loads up. I don't know how old this is. But if there is an image, I will definitely include it. I'm not seeing an image right now, but it was actually this was a
diary entry?
actually written down, some kind of journal or something. I'm not seeing any pictures of a craft or anything, but if that's something I can find, I will definitely share them with you guys. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. I wonder what he's whipping around the world on, you know?
So I'm telling.
He's just running around
It's not anything that's being used today.
just running around burning wood on the move.
That seems a bit sketch, though. You have to carry a bunch of wood with you out on, you know?
I'll tell you another thing that strikes me as being kind of sketch is that you're on the run, but you're just gonna stop in randomly.
He wasn't on the run, was he?
Well, he said he's staying on the move. You know, said that when he was at the one campsite, the black-clad men tried to bum rush him or whatever. Yeah. So it's awfully brave of him to just be stopping at strangers, because I can't imagine that somebody living in the wilderness of Alaska is gonna take too kindly of just a random person being in their woodshed or woodpile or whatever, right?
Well, yeah, that part. But I mean, I could see them like being helpful. You know, if you came up and asked first.
Right.
I mean, I would help.
Well, I mean, I guess, yeah. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like there would be other options in that scenario. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean,
not.
maybe there wasn't. I mean, if there were other options, I'm sure he would have chose those over.
Right.
Going there and having to explain everything he did.
But yeah, it was a pretty neat little story. Again, it kind of goes back to the whole thing about our technology only being as advanced as the people who are making the money will let it be, basically.
Right.
They're not going to let us. If you think about it, the way our technology is going, the major advancements that we would take in certain aspects of technology would make them so readily available that it would be very hard to control and make money off of it. That's why they don't want anything to advance beyond a certain point, because they can't control it. They can't, like the electric, right? Like electricity.
Yeah.
Like what's his name? Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't. And what was the dude, like the bank guy that he was kind of going head to head with or whatever.
Oh,
Morgan. Is it Morgan? J.P. Morgan or something?
maybe.
It's one of them old white dude names. Like,
Yeah. It should. I should know that. Like, just just know that. But as much as I've researched it, I don't know.
but yeah, eventually we will get to those stages where maybe we will see the advancements happen regardless of the money there is to make off the current technology. And by current technology, I mean the cars we presently drive and the phones we currently use, where we're currently at. They don't want to see too many advancements, especially when it comes to the transportation field, right? Because they're making a ton of money off gas, right?
Yeah.
Not just gas, but selling cars and everything that goes along with the automotive industry. There's a whole industry behind that.
I mean, there's electric cars.
Right, yeah. But
even that, you're still
you
making
still
money.
got to put oil in them, right? And they have
I'm
batteries,
sure.
and it's the same. They got wheels and all that. It's the same industry. But I feel like any advancement beyond that, like for example, the guy that is moving around the world on his little craft or whatever, like anything like that is gonna make travel so easily accessible to everybody. They like keeping everybody controlled and in their own little spaces, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for us, we only go on vacation like once a year because it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
But if I could get there without spending any money, I'd probably go a lot more, and it'd probably be like less of a planned thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if we could all move around freely without having to save up gas money, because it's very expensive to travel.
Yeah.
Very expensive. But yeah, they kind of lose control the more advanced we get. But it's just a kind of rant I just decided to go off on because we were talking about that. Do you have anything else for this evening?
I have one more little story.
Well, let's go ahead and check out your other one, and we'll get on with the weekend here, I guess.
Okay. I'm going to get to bed. Okay, so this was from a little thing where, like a question was asked and the public could answer, right?
Right.
So it was
titled, some good
stuff
on them.
Have any alleged witness accounts of Bigfoot swayed you enough to believe in its existence? And someone commented on it. I'm just going to read this person's.
The one comment?
Yeah.
Okay. And I will put the link in the description for you guys as well.
He says, his name is Bill Gatton. He says he's owner, CEO of Open Door Wealth Mastery at Open Door Wealth Mastery. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, absolutely. Since the Magruder video, there have been hundreds of recorded sightings of large hairy humanoids around the world, leading one to accept their existence. Something I've discovered and will swear to because of recent TV specialty programs such as Weird Stuff Caught on Camera. Can't recall off the hand the actual name of the show, but these things are real and do exist. My strong suspicion is that the stuff flying unidentified through our skies, having something to do with opening so-called portals to other dimensions where these things are, is likely common. Oh, this person doesn't write the best, but I personally have, with witnesses, seen a few things that I could never have believed before. One of them is the appearance of a 2-foot-tall, gray, furry humanoid bending on hands and knees to drink water from the lake at the edge of my New Jersey backyard. Another time, a few years later, my wife and I both observed a friend's attractive female companion metamorph before our eyes into an old hag. Her face suddenly took on the appearance of like a rubber witch's Halloween mask, complete with warts, heavily wrinkled skin.
What is that about?
And sparse white hair. This lasted for just a minute or so. Then she returned to her normal appearance. A half-grinning smirk seemed to be inferring, "Oops, I know you saw that, but I'm not worried because no one will ever believe you." I personally have come to believe that many of the so-called mythical cryptids being seen today have temporarily thrust into our realm of being and are here to stay. I feel that one's refusing to accept the reality of these things can be dangerous if one of them is encountered. And in today's world, it would be quite unusual for anyone who watches television to say that he or she doesn't believe in the apparitions presumed to be ghosts, spiritual orbs, and demons. And he ends it with this quote: "In God's house there are many mansions, and we only live in one of them, and I think the separations are quite thin at times."
Interesting.
I thought it was a pretty neat
Well,
little story.
going off of that, we heard somebody talking about something earlier today, and there was no evidence to back any of this up, but I thought it was kind of an interesting theory, right, about vampires.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what the guy said was basically that vampires are real, and they come from an alien species that are like, what did he say, like half draconian or something?
Yeah.
Something to the extent of they're half draconian, half something.
I can't remember all of it. This dude went
They
into
drink
crazy.
blood.
Uh-huh.
And
They prefer the younger blood.
where they were initially established at was in the European area of Transylvania. And guess what? One of these things was Dracula, supposedly.
Well, that's
Or
where
maybe
came up with
they
Dracula.
created hybrids, right? Like
yeah,
half.
but there are still like old school.
But there
vampires.
are like the old school ones who supposedly have the more grotesque look about them and aren't so human-like. But evidently the vampires are real. They're just an alien race, and they've been hidden in lore as we know them today as vampires. So pretty interesting theory, I guess.
He kept speaking very matter of factly.
Very matter of factly, and maybe I don't know where he would get the information. Right?
Right. Well, he kept
I'm
saying
a
that he would
rational
astral
person.
travel and experienced all kinds of strange.
But my thing with astral traveling, because I feel like I've probably done that a time or two. There's certain dreams I've had have been like really vivid, like strange, just different. But if I would have met something in my dream that had told me a story, I don't know that I would just take it as fact. Like I would probably question whether I was just dreaming.
But some people truly like practice that art of astral travel.
I guess
it's like.
I mean, if you can take the information you get in a dream and
it's not a dream.
Or whatever you call it in the experience of astral traveling, and it turns out to be fact, then maybe you're onto something there. I would just have to. I'm a person that needs some type of evidence to back something up, And as far as like the Sasquatch thing goes, I feel like witness accounts are good enough if you have so many of them.
Sure.
And I feel like there are plenty enough where there's something to it, right?
Yeah, I really believe there is. I mean...
And it's not just witness accounts. You've got the Sierra Sounds. People get good vocalizations.
Yeah, there's evidence. There's physical evidence.
There's some pretty decent video footage out there. And it's not great, but it's decent. I mean... That's another thing. I think with technology growing and cameras getting better, eventually we'll see some good stuff.
I mean, you would think. I mean, there's so much of me that wants to be like, that's crazy, right? Like this big, huge thing, hairy thing. But
I mean, it's
hearing all the stories and
I
believe it. I do.
The science side of me would be like, that's crazy, but
yeah.
But I mean, it's got to be out there, man. I've never seen a Sasquatch, but I've seen it. I've seen UFOs, and I know those are real. So
right, and there's people out there that are like, "You're crazy."
Right,
That's
they
crazy.
think I'm crazy, but
yeah.
If I was a person to just make stuff up, why would I lie about one thing and not the other? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not lying about the UFO.
Well, no.
You've seen that thing.
Every
time I've seen it, our daughter's seen that too. I even recorded the one, but it's not even worth sharing. Like it's just like you could say it's a plane or whatever.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Are you talking about the second time?
But
we
when
saw
I
it?
get my low light camera, I'm gonna attempt to recapture. And we've only been at
Hopefully.
this location for like a year and a
Yeah.
half,
Yeah.
and I've seen the thing 3 times. So
Why though? Always in the same exact
if it's moving
trajectory.
on a regular basis over this way, I will get it again, and I will share it with you guys and show you guys what I've been.
I just hope that it's as low as it was the first time.
I mean, if it gets,
Because that was
if
startling.
it comes into my field of view the way it has before, I will get it. I will record it.
I'd give anything if you told me to grab my phone to record it that night.
It's just, man, it's hard to record anything in the sky with anything besides a DSLR camera.
That first time, you're crazy.
You think you could have got it?
I do. I feel like I could
I
have thrown a rock and hit that
question whether my phone. The first time I seen it, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even think about recording it. I was just so trying to register what I was looking at.
I mean, I did, but it took like a good 30 seconds before I did, and I had to run back in, grab it.
Yeah, it's just not the first thing you're thinking about doing when you see something like that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if I had been walking outside to look for something like that, I might have been ready for it.
It was so off
but where
guard.
I was just not expecting it, I just kept trying to think of what I could be looking at for
was
so
crazy.
long that it was just almost gone by the time I was like, oh shit, I need to record this. But the next time I seen it, it was the opposite. I was like, where's my camera?
Yeah, but it was so much further up.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, you could still fully make out the triangle
you could
shape
see what it was.
and the lights at each point.
But it was definitely not as low as it was that first time.
No, that first time. I think that's what alarmed me so much about was like how low and absolutely zero sound and moving so incredibly slow, like a hover. That was crazy. Absolutely mind blowing to me. And still, like thinking about it.
They're out there, people. Black triangles. They're in our neck of the woods all the time. A lot. Or they have been the past year and a half.
Yeah.
I can say that for certain. But yeah, I don't have anything else for tonight. I know you're tired.
I am very
We're
tired.
going
I'm
on
always
about,
tired when we do this. It's always late.
We're hitting about 47 minutes right now, so yeah, we could go ahead and cut out of here. But yeah, hopefully you guys have had a good time. I want to encourage you guys to please make sure you're subscribed. There's a lot of people that do get to listen to our videos and they're not subscribed. And also, if you enjoyed the video, you can do us a huge favor by hitting the like button. That really helps us out. It makes sure our video gets recommended to other people. And if you want to, share it. And if you have an encounter you want to share with us, as I said, email that to us at hillshadowsky@yahoo.com, and we'll be sure to share that on an upcoming episode. And I'll see you guys next week, maybe before then if we get out and decide to do some filming over the next week. But for sure next Friday, next weekend. You got anything else?